So WikiLeaks tweeted this out, and as you can read, it says, breaking, a high-level source within the Ecuadorian state has told WikiLeaks that Julian Assange will be expelled within hours to days using the NA Papers offshore scandal as the pretext, and that it already has an agreement with the UK for his arrest. So that got everybody's, so that needs to get out there. And then, the most recent story, so I wanted to see, so it hasn't happened yet. He still hasn't been kicked out yet, because the most recent article I got was this one, and that is from today at 3:38 a.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. So, and this says, Ecuador rejects WikiLeaks' claim it plans to expel Julian Assange. Assange hasn't left the country's embassy in London since he sought refuge there in 2012 to avoid potential extradition to the United States, to where they will then definitely torture him like they did to Chelsea Manning.
Who's back in jail.
Who they put Chelsea Manning back in jail over this issue. Ecuador, this is according to NBC News, Ecuador has denied that WikiLeaks claim that it is set to expel Julian Assange from its embassy in London, rejecting what it called an attempt to stain the dignity of the country. So you see what they're doing? So to me, if you read between the lines here, we know that the government in control now of Ecuador is beholden to Goldman Sachs, right? And that they received a couple of $500 million payments, a couple of those. And so now they're all about finding a reason to expel him. And so this sounds like another one. Like, so they tell WikiLeaks, they have a high person in the Ecuadorian government tell WikiLeaks this is happening. So then they announce it so people can start rallying around him. And then Ecuador uses that as, look, he's defaming us. Look, because they want to kick him out now. The people who are in power now, but the people before didn't. Okay. So does that follow? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that very well could be exactly what's happening. So now they go, oh my God, we're trying to, and this guy can't stop slandering us. Did you plant that story with WikiLeaks? Right? Ecuador's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement late Friday that Assange and WikiLeaks have shown ingratitude and disrespect toward the country that has given him protection on its diplomatic soil by fueling rumors that he would be handed over to British authorities. So that's just really suspicious to me. That's just super suspicious. Exactly what I think happened is what I think is happening. That they're trying to do this now so they can have more cover for when they finally do kick him out at the behest of the Western powers. Okay. Ecuador has made significant expenditures to pay for his stay and has endured its rudeness, the ministry said. Last month, Ecuador's National Assembly issued a resolution to investigate if Assange played a role in the publishing of private information about President Lenin Moreno on social networks. On Tuesday, Moreno blamed WikiLeaks for recent allegations of offshore corruption, but appeared in local media appeared in local media outlets and the publication of family photos to social media. So do you see what they're doing? Okay, you see what they're trying to do. So now Ecuador is trying to paint Assange as some kind of a traitor to their country. Hey, he's revealing stuff that's negative about our president. Do you see what they're doing? So now they could use, like, this guy's dangerous. He's revealing secret stuff. WikiLeaks, in a statement, called Moreno's charges completely bogus, saying it reported on the accusation of corruption against the president only after Ecuador's legislature investigated the issue. So WikiLeaks only reported on an investigation that had already been done by their own government.
And again, WikiLeaks doesn't go hacking people's computers.
Right.
They are given information
Right.
and they put it on the internet. That's the thing that they have. Everybody thinks like Julian Assange just around hacking people's computers.
No, they're a publisher.
They're publishers.
So that's why this is all a big deal, because traditionally publishers have never been prosecuted in the United States over publishing classified information that the public had a right to know. Like, that's what that whole movie The Post is about. It's about Daniel Ellsberg, who got those that RAND study, and he published it that revealed the Vietnam War to be a hoax on the American people, carried out over, I think, 4 presidential administrations. So it didn't matter Republican, Democrat. It was the military-industrial complex, right? And had the presidents in their back pocket.
Same thing with Watergate.
Same thing, right. So you get to publish stuff, but the crime would be hacking into a computer to get it. That is a crime. But when someone has that information and then they give it to a publisher like the New York Times or the Washington Post or WikiLeaks, then they can publish it without fear of or of prosecution. So that's why this is totally different, because they're trying to they're trying to charge Julian Assange and trying to shut him down, even though the precedent is that we shouldn't be doing this. And they're trying to find ways. So what they want to do is connect Julian Assange with Chelsea Manning and say that Julian Assange encouraged Chelsea Manning to get those files or helped or assisted, because that's a crime. But they didn't, according to everything we know, WikiLeaks didn't do that. Julian Assange didn't do that. Julian Assange was just published what Chelsea Manning uncovered, right? Am I correct on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what they're doing, anything they can to get him. They tried the fake rape allegations to get him to Sweden.
Yes,
He said, I'll stand trial.
Yep.
Just don't extradite me to the United States. They wouldn't guarantee
They wouldn't
that.
guarantee that.
So,
and then the woman who was in charge of, or the prosecutor that was in charge of that case, has been reprimanded for how horribly she handled it. Yeah. By the way, Marino provided no evidence, but the speech reflected ongoing tension between Assange and his host at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. So all that stuff he accused Assange of doing, they didn't provide any evidence of it. That's according to NBC frickin' News. And if they're saying it, which it goes against their narrative, then it has to be true. That's what, when do you believe NBC News? When they tell you something that goes counter to their own stupid narrative. That's when you're like, whoa, what must be, there you go. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in its statement late Friday, that Ecuador had filed a complaint with the United Nations over what they called illicit publications. So they're going after the publisher, not the person who hacked the information. They're going after the publisher, which is Julian Assange. Mr. Assange has rights, but also obligations to comply with, it warned. No person under the jurisdiction of Ecuador is above the law. So they want to get at him. They filed this complaint with the United Nations. It's crazy. They're giving him asylum and they're filing shit. Again, you see what's going on. I hope you do. And Gordon Dimmack posted this. He said, Julian Assange has taken the fundamentals of journalism from the analog age and transferred them flawlessly into the digital era. This is war on what is left of the Fourth Estate. Any journalist not jumping up and down, screaming bloody murder, he says blue, I say bloody murder right now, is bought and paid for. And so, I don't know if they're bought and paid for, but they want to be bought and paid for. Because if this is one of those stories that doesn't help your career. Telling the truth about the most important thing, freedom of journalism, freedom of the press, that actually doesn't help your career in this neoliberal surveillance state that all these journalists operate in. And I'll go one step further. Any of these journalists that end up going to these, because there's going to have another one of these correspondence dinners. And if you don't go there with the express intent to bust their balls for how shitty they are, then you are part of the problem.
Yeah.
You're part of the problem. If you're going to that correspondence dinner to rub shoulders with these fuckers instead of bust their balls, then you're part of the problem. That's a fact. Okay, because you should be calling those motherfuckers out, not fucking putting on a tuxedo and drinking cocktails with them.
Well, Jimmy, it's not just, they haven't just bought, the corporate media has also bought out entertainers. Because as a comedian, if you want to get a job, you can't say the things you say on this show or on my show, Political Vigilante.
Oh, no.
We're not going to get hired to be late night talk show hosts on the.
No.
There's no way. We can't.
Look what happened to Colbert. He totally flipped to neoliberal. He
God.
totally stopped challenging the establishment.
And neoliberal is something that Chris Hedges wants to,
the
to
corporatists.
say corporatists.
Yeah.
Corporatists.
The corporatists. And then you see, I saw a comic get called out for being a corporate comedian. And he went nuts, He's a neoliberal. It was Neil Brennan, I believe, got called that on Instagram, and people we went furious because that's the thing. If you want to get paid by the corporate media, you got to play their game. So you can make fun of Trump and his hair and this, that, and the other thing, but you can't say they're pushing the war machine. You can't say that Stephen Colbert or them are bought and paid for. Their segments that Rachel Maddow has that are paid for by Boeing. You can't call that out. You can't call that out. You won't get a job.
The fucking CBS is sponsored by the banks, and oil industry, and military industrial complex. I mean, that's, of course.
I lost work because of my Twitter feed 2 years ago.
I know. Take that story that you were scheduled to host
A movie review game show for a big online movie review company that is owned by one of the major conglomerates. And they saw my Twitter feed, and my Twitter feed was calling out at the time Anthony Rendon and the other California state legislator Democrats that had sold us out for single payer in 2017. This is, remember that spring or summer they sold us out?
Yeah.
And I was just calling them out. I wasn't swearing, wasn't all caps. I was just calling out the corporate Democrats for selling us out, and I got fired from a job for that, which is just a shot across the bow going, hey, Graham. And I was about 6 months into doing my Political Vigilante show, and I had to make a decision. Having done over 300 episodes of TV. If I want any more jobs in corporate media and television, if I want to be on Comedy Central and get a Netflix special, I got to rein back or double down and tell them to jam it. So that's what I did. I told them to jam it. That's why I'm here.
Attaboy. And that's why you're in my garage. But it's well worth it.
It's a nice garage, Jimmy.
When the truth loses you friends, get better friends.
Get better friends. Because you know what I have with me in this garage? My integrity. I can look at myself in the mirror. I still live in my one-bedroom rent-controlled apartment because the bank stole my home. But guess what? I got my soul.
Yeah. Yeah. That and $1 get you on the bus. Anyway, we'll be right back. How much is the bus now, by the way? Is it
That's
gotta be
$1.75.
Got to be $1.75. Yeah. I took many buses in my life. So that's the story about Julian Assange, and we're going to keep monitoring it. They're doing the live vigil, right? It's happening this weekend. And how do people find that?
If they go to Unity for J, I believe Susie Dawson. If you go to my Twitter feed, both of our Twitter feeds. I
tweeted it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure you tweeted it out. Susie Dawson will tweet it out.
Yep. They're going live right now. I'm going to be on it tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific. There's people all weekend talking about it.
Okay. All right. So that's a real good litmus test for how for me. If somebody considers themselves, a real journalist, they would be talking about Julian Assange. And you can have problems with how Julian Assange does his work. You could be critical of certain things, but you can't turn your back on someone who's now being prosecuted because he's a threat to the establishment. That's why he's being prosecuted, because he's an actual threat to power. That's why. And of course, it's the people who just fed you a hoax and an evidence-free red-baiting conspiracy theory for 3 years want you to believe that somehow Julian Assange is also an enemy of the United States and in bed with Russia and some kind of compromise, and he's your enemy. Those people, again, are horrible people, and they're all bought and paid for. And again, especially if you consider yourself alternative news and you're not sticking up for Julian Assange, then there's really not much point. I don't understand why people would. So that's a good litmus test for me. If you consider, so this is another big test for journalism, and journalism is failing it.
Well, that's the thing. People like, if you got bent out of shape about Khashoggi getting murdered, okay, but then you can't then not get bent out. Why is this different? You know how, and most journalists or indie media people, I go, do you know about Serena Shim? And they go, who's that? I go, oh, that was the American journalist that had a very suspicious death after she had revealed that we were letting ISIS get through U.S. bases through Turkey into Syria. And then she has a weird car accident. Nobody ever investigates it. So you can't just pick and choose which things to be outraged about. You got to show they're all wrong. There's a problem with all of them, and you need to stand up for them.
Jim Acosta, the grandstanding jackass Jim Acosta, everybody gets upset over him and clutches their pearls over Trump being rude to Jim Acosta. But the same Trump's CIA is going after Julian Assange, and they're all stupid about it on purpose. Because it takes real courage to stand up for the truth. And as most times we've seen, most people don't. And that's why the journalism profession is filled with just as many fucking hacks as any other profession. Just a handful of people are worth their salt in journalism. And I know Phil Donahue, he said that nobody respects a guy who does the roundhouse criticism of all media. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of good work. And there are. But overall, where are they? Where are a lot of people doing good work pushing back against Russiagate? They were still doing good work probably about something else, but they never stuck their chin out to push back against the biggest fucking hoax that journalism as a group was pulling on the American people. They just put their head down because it didn't advance their career. It doesn't advance your career. Aaron Matei just won a fucking award for the work he did on Russiagate because he's an actual journalist. They couldn't give it to a Jagoff nightclub comedian, right? So they gave it to an actual journalist. Is his phone ringing off the hook with offers? No. If journalism wasn't toxic, which it is, if journalism functioned in anywhere near a normal or a healthy way, or even like a normal business did, the people who got Russiagate right now would be getting offers and raises, and everybody would be a bidding war to try to get those people in their newsroom. But that's not how journalism functions. Journalism is dysfunctional and toxic. And people don't like reminders of them being wrong on a nuclear scale. They don't like them hanging around their newsrooms. So guess what? So they can get it wrong again. These are the same people who got Iraq wrong. These are when we got it right. These are the same people who got Libya wrong. These are the same people who got Syria wrong. These are the same people who are currently getting Venezuela wrong, and they're all doing it on purpose. As a group, journalism is doing this. And there's almost no one pushing back. And the only people who are being pushing back are being smeared on the regular. And where's the rest of the journalists? Where does Chris Hayes stand up for those people? Where's Lawrence O'Donnell sticking up for those people pushing back? What they do is they all sit around a table at MSNBC and attack someone who's telling the truth about the Syrian war like they did to Tulsi Gabbard. That's what they do. So I don't have much respect. I know Phil Donahue likes it. So those people who are doing good work, what they need to do is stop doing their good work for one fucking day, stick their head up and push back against the evidence-free red baiting conspiracy theory that their whole profession is spinning at the top of their lungs. That's what a good journalist would do. Not only just do good journalism on the thing they're working on, but actually stop and push back instead of leaving it up to 5 or 10 motherfuckers in the entire country.
It's also hard to push back when you have the CIA in your production team or wherever else.
That's right. NBC hired flat out the head of the CIA to now rub shoulders in the green room with Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and every other fucking guest that comes on there. That's their expert. The CIA, they bring them right in. They give them a contract. The people they're supposed to be debunking, they pay to come on and lie to us. So that's what I say. So I'm going to disagree with Phil Donahue on that one. That, yeah, all those people who were doing good work, who weren't working on Russiagate, should have stopped the good work they were doing once a week, maybe, and pushed back against this fucking thing instead of leaving it up to 5 or 10 jagoffs who got smeared for 3 years straight. People still doing it, by the way. Still smearing Aaron, still smearing Glenn Greenwald. And, of course, us all the time. So that's what I have to say about that. And that's a good litmus test. Again, journalism as a group turning a blind eye to Julian Assange. In fact, even helping it along. As a group. which is why we do this show, which is why we're better than them, which is why our country's in such a shit shape it is because it falls on people like me to tell the fucking truth about what's happening in this country. Now you know why we're fucked. Because it does. It does come down to people like me and people who are ostracized like Aaron Matei and Max Blumenthal and Michael Tracy and Glenn Greenwald. It does. And now that the hoax has been revealed, have they stopped? No. No, they are not stopping. They are doubling down. Think Progress I did another article about all the people that Mueller left out of his Russiagating. We got more Russians, more Russians, more Americans who are suspect. Your hoax just got exposed as a hoax. Still doing it. And the other media doesn't call them out. So that's why, as a group, and I feel genuinely sorry for people like Michael Tracy and Glenn Greenwald and Aaron Matei and Mac. They actually have to fucking work. That's their peers. Journalists are their peers. Ugh. I genuinely, because they have to get jobs now and work with those fucking people. Anyway, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about The Nation magazine, so I won't say anything, but it was really brave of Katrina vanden Heuvel to have Aaron Matei continue to do accurate and reporting and stick to journalistic standards while the rest of his profession was ignoring them. And it actually took courage to stand up for journalistic standards. Isn't that why? That's how fucked up things are in this country. Just standing up for journalistic standards makes you a pariah in the era of Trump. I mean, it's always been that way. I mean, MSNBC fired Phil Donahue for telling the truth about the Iraq War. That was in 2002, and they fired, or 3, and they fired Ed Schultz and Ashley Banfield. They fired Ed Schultz just because he wanted to cover Bernie Sanders. They fired him. And notice who didn't get fired. The rest of the people who were there. They didn't get fired. So that's all you need to know about the people left at MSNBC, right? Would there be anything else you need to know? They fired Ed Schultz. They didn't fire Chris Hayes. Who do you want to fucking listen to? Next live Jimmy Dore show is June 5th. That's a Wednesday at Hermosa Beach Comedy Club in Hermosa Beach, California. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for all tickets. We might be coming to your town. And if you love the show, please become a patron. Please support the show. We give you hours of bonus material every week. And please click that bell and make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are already subscribed, they unsubscribe people every day. Just check. Thanks for your support.